Hello, marhaba. Thank you very much for joining us for the podcast by Chalhoub Group. Today we are super excited because we're joining you in a different setup. This is our new studio in our communications team office, and we look forward to bringing you so much more content from the studio, and we hope you enjoy the content as much as you enjoy the setup that we love so much. Our topic today is about all the buzzwords, but we want to go a bit deeper beyond all this buzz to understand better the Metaverse, the topic that everyone talks about. My name is Lynn Khatib. I'm the Group Head of Communication, and I'm very excited to have with me my colleagues, Nick Vinckier, Head of Corporate Innovation, and Andrea Fetzer, Head of Strategy at Chalhoub Group. Thank you very much. I mean, everyone was tuning in and excited about the Metaverse report when we launched it earlier, and they asked a lot of questions. And today we want to go a little bit deeper, or maybe behind the scenes with the report, starting by why did we create this report? Because obviously we don't have a 10-year strategy about the Metaverse. We want to, we thought it is important enough to have a report though and deep dive. So tell me a little more about it. Maybe we start with, who wants to start? I'll leave it up to you.
So, the idea was already born when I joined the group, but it made perfectly sense from a timing perspective, given the experiments that we see in the industry. A lot of companies now test and learn, and also from a governmental perspective, when we see that the region wants to be like Metaverse leaders, I think the report just came to the right time. But Nick, I guess you were the one who actually came up with the idea.
Together with Yasmina, obviously, and with the wider strategy team, let's say. The idea came after a couple of experiments that we had been doing with Christoffel. So we launched our first NFT collection in May, and did a couple of other things. And we read a lot of articles about other retailers and luxury retailers experimenting. And obviously, you want to understand the size of the price, and before you go further all in any topic that is innovation. If you look at sustainability, for example, there's so many research going on for pre-loved and buyback, so you can benchmark a little bit at what is going on. For Metaverse, Web3, crypto, NFTs, there's hardly any data out there, and if there's anything out there, it's super scattered, not at all localized for the region or for the luxury industry. So that's where we said, why don't we create it ourselves? Why don't we go into a consumer study? Why don't we have desk research, look at what is happening in the luxury industry, to understand what is the size of the price, what is the current adoption rate in the GCC, what is the expectation of our customer towards these new technologies, to keep a finger on the pulse of our own customer, to inform our brand partners, and also to show our innovative DNA, obviously, which is at the core of what we do.
Of course. I mean, yes, I love that. Also, you tested and tried even before the report. You still ventured, you still tested with Level Shoes, with Christophe, and we're going to talk a little more about those and how they're performing. It's really important. I was in London a while back presenting to a couple of, actually more than a couple, 10 luxury brands on a breakfast, and sharing the GCC report, which we had published earlier this year, was very insightful. You really need data about the Middle East market, and it's usually lacking. We have international data, we have some insights, but I think it's great that we can deep dive into it. So tell me a little bit, what is the state of the Metaverse in this region?
The state of the Metaverse in the region is pretty significant already. So we expected it to be rather high. So if you look at the adoption rate of crypto, NFTs, and engagement in Metaverse platforms, we had an assumption that it would be high, seeing the demographic, which is generally young, very mobile, tech savvy, loves luxury, has spending power. But we were very surprised to see the actual numbers coming out of the report. If you want to dive deeper into the numbers. please.
Yeah, so what we found very interesting is the level of awareness. So already 77% are aware of cryptocurrency, and almost half of the respondents from our luxury survey know about NFTs and the metaverse. And it's even more surprising when we look beyond awareness, because they also claim that they have knowledge about those new technologies. So between 60 to 75%, depending on the Web3 technology, claim themselves to be very knowledgeable or even having a good knowledge about it. And this is something that we did not expect. And it actually proves that the metaverse has its right to exist, and probably is even like further developed than we expected it to be.
That's amazing. And just to clarify a bit to our listeners and viewers, the numbers that you are sharing are from a deep dive with 1,600 luxury consumers, right? So tell me a little bit about this sample size and within the team of intelligence and insights and strategy, I think you do that quite frequently. So how did you select the sample size and what is the demographic or background of these consumers?
Sure. So we wanted to cover the whole GCC area. So we really have the country split, for example, and we investigated like 16 to 45-year-old people to make sure we have a good coverage, and we have the opportunity also to select it and slice it in like every dimension possible to make sure that we only have luxury shoppers. We applied 2 filters. So the first one was about the minimum household income, and the second one was about the minimum spend per luxury item. So in here we defined, for example, having spent more than 1,000 dirham per fashion item or 200 per beauty item over the last 3 months, to make really sure that we are very sharp on the target audience that we wanted to look into.
Very interesting. And Nick, I know in the report there's a lot of, you demystify kind of the metaverse, what it means, what's the definition that we are referring to. So tell us a little bit about it, but more so, I would like to better understand what kind of, if you say jobs or things that are normal to our ways of working could also be influenced. I know you told me before, maybe communication, the way we do it, maybe not even in the studio and the metaverse next time. So what are like nice, interesting impacts of the metaverse beyond just, let's say, the traditional things that people know about?
I think a lot of people are still wondering, what is the metaverse? Everyone keeps talking about this, but I don't really understand what is going on. And there's no generally, maybe the issue is that there is no generally accepted definition yet. So that makes it kind of fluffy. But every expert agrees on a couple of key points. So the first one is that we're moving towards an internet that will become way more experiential and immersive than we have known it before. So if you think about the web, you used to go on desktop in a little room. Now it's on our mobile phones. The next wave is we will be surrounded by the internet, or we are stepping into the World Wide Web, whether it's on the Metaverse platform, on our devices, or we wear VR or AR, or we have smart glasses and we see virtual experiences around us. So that experiential layer will be laid on top of the internet. So that's the first element of the Metaverse. Number 2, we see a convergence between the virtual world and the physical world. So there will be a mix and an overlap of what happens in the internet and what happens around us physically. And number 3 is interoperability. Very hard word to pronounce, but it means that today in gaming environments, for example FIFA, you can wear your football boots on the PlayStation, but you cannot wear those football boots in Fortnite or in Roblox or in Minecraft. To come to a metaverse, the experts in the industry agree that those football boots should actually be you should be able to wear them in other games as well, as if it's in the real world. Because if you buy an item physically, you own it, whether you want to wear them at work or when you go out in the weekend, in the morning, at night. There is no such thing as a boundary of a platform in the real life. So why would it be in virtual environments? So this is in a nutshell what the metaverse is about. The experiential layer of the internet, the convergence between virtual and physical, and interoperability between platforms. And that is why blockchain technology is important, because you need the blockchain to facilitate that interoperability between different platforms. You cannot take a virtual item from Fortnite into Roblox without having some sort of technology that enables this. And these are the infamous NFTs, the virtual good, the football boot in FIFA, for example, or the virtual sweater that you would buy in Fortnite. That is an NFT, which you can then take in different environments and more. And usually these are currently bought with cryptocurrencies. So I've now used all the buzzwords that I could possibly think of.
All in a few sentences.
And I hope it's a little bit more clear.
But it kind of puts it into place. It puts things into perspective. Okay, what blockchain yes. And the interconnectability.
So this is what the metaverse consists of today. We're absolutely not there yet. So interoperability is absolutely not there yet. As mentioned, you cannot take your FIFA boots into any other gaming environment. So we will need to see where that happens. But there's already sparks of everything starting to happen with these metaverse platforms, which we highlight in the report, with different use cases of virtual goods and so on that are starting to emerge. But we will need a couple more years and advancements in technology to get there. Now, to come back to the second question, maybe?
But maybe before the second question, because when you're talking, I'm imagining new ways of collaborations that can take place in the metaverse, even beyond what we have today in the physical world, be it technology, be it brands. Like today you have a luxury brand with a sports brand or a car brand that collaborate, and consumers love that. So what kind of examples could happen in the metaverse with this interconnectability and all the worlds coming together, not just luxury, fashion versus other categories?
Well, we see a lot of collaborations going on, and it also gives great opportunities for smaller designers to enter the fashion scene without having the backup of the big fashion houses. So what we saw at the early beginning of the whole metaverse development was one young designer collaborating with Artifact, and they dropped an NFT shoe collection, a sneaker one, and generated 6 million within a couple of seconds. So this is really impressive.
Wow.
You see a lot of other examples as well. For Polo Ralph Lauren, for example, they dropped a collection together with Fortnite, where you could buy the Ralph Lauren skins in Fortnite, but also buy Fortnite branded or Fortnite inspired physical clothing of Ralph Lauren. For example, Lacoste also worked together with Minecraft. So you see these partnerships and collaborations emerging.
Two topics. I mean, the phygital, the in-person, physical and virtual is really important, I think. Maybe we can talk a bit about that as well. But when you're talking, I'm seeing startups, I'm seeing as well, independent designers or artists. So you did tap into this in the report. You had a bit of reflection on the startups that are in the region working on Metaverse, the kind of funding they have. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
So to answer that concretely, the GCC is in general a favorable environment for startups. If we dive deeper into the Web3 startup ecosystem, we see that the regulator is very favorable. There's plenty of examples of the governments in the Gulf that support startups or that have specific metaverse strategies, blockchain specific laws and crypto laws and so on. But if we look at startups, there's close to or even more than $500 million funding already invested in Web3 startups, mainly in crypto exchanges, which is the fuel for what we then see. So the more and the bigger the exchange, the more people can access cryptocurrencies, the more trust they have in it, which enables them to buy NFTs, which they can then use in the metaverse. So the fertile soil that we can, if we can call it like that, that is the GCC. Is very welcoming for Web3 startups, and that is something that we eventually will need to reach mass adoption in this new wave of the web.
Interesting. I'm sure that people with creative ideas might benefit of this and try to maybe understand what are these new opportunities to do your own business, to employ, to incubate, and to work on this topic. Luckily, in our region, as you said, and when it comes to tech and innovation, we kind of go crazy. We want to try, we want to test. It doesn't mean we believe in something that it's 100% truth, but I think that innovative mindset is there, and the governments and universities are adopting it as well, right? So hopefully a bit more on universities and schools, so that we start young and not at my age trying to understand the metaverse.
Well, it's the yalla mentality that we have in the region, right?
Yeah.
When I moved here a couple of years ago to the region, it was so profound to me. The difference with Europe, for example, is in Europe you have objections for everything and reasons why it would not work. Here, you have an incredible yalla mentality for everything that is slightly crazy. It's like, okay, yeah, yalla, let's do it. And that's beautiful to see.
You forgot Yalla Habibi. Let's do it. Yeah, it's interesting to be in this region. Okay, I think when we go back to that second part of the question, which we didn't tap into, which is how are your jobs evolving, or maybe the ways of working? How can we do things now with an open mind to new technologies? I mean, even for me, what advice would you give communications team as well beyond your jobs?
I think it's very early to see or to say definitely how jobs will change overall. I think if you look at specific metaverse jobs, you see that an entirely new industry is opening up. So where you before had fashion designers that create physical goods, today you see a massive in-stream of 3D designers. And I think that if there's a skill that is extremely future-proof, it is 3D design. So if anyone is still doubting what the next course should be that you want to follow, it's probably 3D design, because you can create virtual worlds, you can create virtual goods, which you can then sell. I think also next to that, community building is extremely important, because with anything that we see, whether it's cryptocurrencies or NFTs or metaverse, it's all around community building. So being even more closer to the customer will become even more important. And then maybe thirdly, which would be more general then, I think that our jobs will change in terms of proximity to each other. If we would, for example, where two of three are wearing glasses now, if we would be able to beam up holograms, why would we need to travel? We would still have that proximity of sitting next to each other, of seeing people nearby, but without the need of traveling to specific places. Now, the commute from D3 to HO1 is okay, but if we would
It feels like a plane ride, though.
It is okay, relatively. But if you have colleagues all across the world, it is easier to skip that whole travel part. There, obviously, it's great to meet in person as well. But if you can have business meetings with the feeling that you sit next to each other, obviously our jobs will change in that way.
I love the fact that the community we are going back to basics in a way, whether it's with pre-loved, with being sustainable, with clean beauty, with the metaverse, back to the communities. I think after COVID, we all appreciate so much more communities, and I am happy to hear that with technology and the metaverse, this is one of the core things that it's bringing people closer, and the human element in the community, it's still there. Of course, a lot of opportunities for education and sustainability on the metaverse. I hope it will be soon the discussions of the next global entities on this one. Well, the podcast is a short 20 minutes, but I didn't want to finish it before really going back to the consumers. I mean, Andrea, tell us, what are the insights that we could share about the consumers in the region, their expectations of the brands beyond what you just shared with us?
Well, there is so much content that we had in the report, but I think one of the major things is, and this links back to the whole gaming industry as well, and taps also on the point that you mentioned, why the region here is so important also for the development of the metaverse, is that if we assume that younger people are more prone to gaming, and we see that in the KSA, for example, 67% already claim themselves as gamer. And in our report, we found that the luxury shoppers are even more into games. So here we have 80% that use games regularly. And then if we look how gaming can actually connect with the brands and to incorporate the brand identity into mini games, for example, as we had the example of Gucci Town in Roblox. And the consumer, they really expect their favorite brands to be in the metaverse. I think that was your opening statement when you said 87% of the consumer, they want to have their brand in the metaverse. We see that even 9 out of 10 want to try or see their product first in the metaverse before they buy it. So there is a huge potential from the brand side, but also from the consumer side, because it gives them much more ways and channels to interact with the brands. What is important as well is that what are the consumer what they want from the metaverse, and this goes back to something you mentioned earlier, is that they want to use the metaverse for education, but also to socialize, to have fun in the metaverse. It's interesting to see that 80% already say they prefer specific activities, such as actually coming together better in the digital world than in the real world. So there is so much potential for really collaborating and to build those communities around the metaverse. And one of the use cases, and we've seen that this is one of the most frequently used ones, is the combination of NFTs together with incentives. So, for example, that NFT holders have access to specific events or get access to the collections prior to everyone else. And it's always linked to this community thought, bringing people together. So I think the metaverse has so many dimensions and so many great opportunities for along the consumer journey. What we actually try to allocate the use cases on, it's endless, and we could probably fill another hour.
I'm sure.
Just to go through all of them.
I think everyone can read the report on our website, chalhoubgroup.com. They can see all the content as well from our social media platforms. So a lot to deep dive there. I think it's really an eye-opener, not just for brands, but when you speak, I think, kids and teenagers and responsible consumption of the metaverse. At the same time, the mindset that we kind of need to allow it in a way, because that is also future jobs. So it's very tricky because parents are usually scared of these things. They consider them antisocial, and therefore it's a whole thing to grow socially, emotionally, cognitively, and consider for future generations as well. Thank you very, very much for being with us. Nick, Andrea, it's really a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for watching or listening. You can, of course, go back to the report, send us any questions and feedback, and tell us what topics you'd like to hear more of, and we're happy to also create more of that. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.